Welcome to the 100th anniversary celebration of Welborn Memorial Baptist Hospital.
Wow.
Taken on an historical retrospective of those 100 years and see how Welborn, since its inception, has been a pioneer and leader in Evansville's medical community. To do this, you're going to have to use your imagination. I'm sure you're very familiar with the popular series of movies Back to the Future. And some of you may even remember the cartoon characters Mr. Peabody and Sherman's Time Travels. Well, we don't have a DeLorean. We don't even have a Wayback Machine. But if we use our imagination and modern technology, we'll be able to jump into the Welborn time capsule here in the Century 2 donor wall. And take a trip back through time to 1894. Well, here we are, Evansville, Indiana. Population 50,756. Evansville and the world are looking towards the new century. Electric trolley cars are now in use. The Vendome Hotel and the Grand Opera House open up. And on January 18, 1894, the Evansville Sanitarium, located right here on 4th Street between Oak and Cherry, opens its doors. The sanitarium was founded by Dr. A.M. Owen and Dr. Edwin Walker. There are 13 staff members. Let's drop in and see what the new facility is like. With me now are two of the nurses at this beautiful new facility.
What kind of outfit is that?
Well, we are moving into the 20th century. I guess I'm just dressed a little bit ahead of my time. But I would like to ask you, what kind of conveniences do you have here at the new facility?
Well, there's a tile terrazzo floor in the surgery room, and we have a combination of gas and electric lights above the operating table that provide maximum lighting during surgery.
And the noiseless carriage that transports the patients to and from surgery is just wonderful.
In 1894, the Evansville Sanitarium School of Nursing is founded, and the physician's clinic operating within the hospital is also incorporated. Well, I see it's time to move to the first 2 decades of the 20th century. We made it just in time for this parade. Evansville's population is 59,007. And the city limits are bound by Morgan Avenue, St. Joseph's Avenue, and just east of Governor Street. The world has seen President McKinley's assassination, the Wright brothers' first flight, World War I, and the last Chicago Cub World Series championship. In the field of medicine, the EKG was invented in 1903. In 1914, because of the increased patient load, Dr. Walker enlarges the facility by adding an annex to the Oak Street side of the sanitarium. With a new addition completed, the sanitarium is renamed and reincorporated as the Walker Hospital, and Dr. J.Y. Welborn is designated the new Chief of Staff. The hospital was a medical pioneer in Evansville, being the first to have a pathology department in 1914 and an X-ray department in 1916. To give you an idea of what it was like at the beginning of the century, the life of a student nurse is chronicled.
The schoolwork of the student was very diverse. In addition to caring for patients, we were expected to clean and scrub the patient rooms and, when necessary, paint the rooms. In our spare time, we rolled bandages and prepared solutions of all kinds. Student nurses worked 12-hour shifts. We often were on special cases or private duty, and then were expected to work as long as 20 hours at a time. There was no tuition for our training, and each student was given an allowance of $8 the first year and $10 for the next 2 years. And we had to furnish our own uniforms and books.
It's time to head now to the roaring 20s and 30s. From 1920 to 1939, Evansville has grown to 85,264 residents. WGBF goes on the air in 1922, and a bridge over the Ohio links Evansville and Henderson. And speaking of the Ohio, Evansville is hit by this devastating 1937 flood. We experienced the first talking motion pictures, Prohibition, the Depression, and the New Deal. Plus, we see the development of insulin and penicillin. The early 20s bring prosperity to the country, and Walker Hospital enjoys a period of expansion and development. An important part of the expansion is the building of a home for both nurses and students. Upon the death of Dr. Walker in 1922, Dr. Welborn and Dr. William R. Davidson take over management of the hospital, renaming it Welborn Walker Hospital. Despite the rippling effects of the Depression, Welborn Walker Hospital flourishes in the 1930s. The building is again upgraded. Dr. Mel Welborn Sr. comes to Evansville and becomes a partner with James York Welborn. Now it's time to head to the 40s, an important decade for Evansville and the world. The war in Europe continues, and then it finally happens. Pearl Harbor. The United States enters World War II. Evansville's industry focuses on the war with the manufacturing of LSTs, P-47 fighter planes, training manuals, and uniforms. Medically, streptomycin for tuberculosis is discovered. On Monday, November 29, 1943, Welborn Walker Hospital is sold to the First Baptist Church at 4th and Cherry Streets for $175,000. Terms of the sale stipulate that the hospital will be organized as a nonprofit corporation under the name Welborn Memorial Baptist Hospital Incorporated. As a nonprofit corporation, the hospital plans expansion of the present facility. In 1946, a second three-story tower is built along Oak Street with 24 new air-conditioned rooms. The war is over. The baby boomers are born. So let's head to the 50s, the decade of Korea, Eisenhower, and Elvis. Evansville's population has exploded to 128,636. Mayor Vance Hartke is elected to the U.S. Senate, and the city's largest shopping center, Lawndale, opens at Washington and Green River Road. With the launching of Sputnik, the world enters the space age. And Jonas Salk formulates the polio vaccine. Welborn Clinic begins construction of a separate 14,000 square foot building located on Cherry Street across from the hospital. In 1955, the hospital announces an ambitious 10-year expansion and remodeling program to include a new lobby, business office, waiting rooms, coffee and gift shops, and chapel. Welborn's expansion continues into the 60s. So let's head to the decade of the new frontier, the Vietnam War, Beatlemania, and man's first steps on the moon. Evansville continues to grow with a population of 141,543. The Evansville College Aces basketball team wins national championships in 1963, 64, and 65. Indiana State University opens on the west side, and the Civic Center is dedicated. The new frontier comes to an abrupt end with the assassination of President Kennedy. The Vietnam War escalates, and of course, the lads from Liverpool take the world by storm. In medical news, the Surgeon General's report on smoking is released, and the first heart transplant takes place. Welborn's 10-year expansion continues into the 60s and is completed by 1964 with the exterior and interior remodeling of the 1946 Oak Street building. Plus, we see the construction of the Medi-Center, an extended care facility. And for the first time since the opening of the Evansville Sanitarium, hospital property extends beyond the original block of 4th Street. Welborn continues to be a leader in the medical community as it introduces Evansville's first cardiac critical care unit and the first neonatal intensive care service. And it is the first local hospital to establish a foundation to provide financial support. From the decade of peace and love, let's head to the decade of Watergate, Iran, and disco. The 70s see the population of Evansville dip to 138,764. A new 4-lane US 41 is completed. and the tragic plane crash that kills all the members of the University of Evansville basketball team, coaches, and friends occurs. The U.S. leaves Vietnam. Nixon leaves the White House. The country celebrates its bicentennial, and medical developments prove the ultrasound safe in pregnancy. Developments during the 1970s bring Welborn's bed count to 458 with the construction of a 7-story tower featuring a new entrance facing 6th Street. The new facility includes a number of firsts for Evansville: the first pediatric intensive care unit, the first inpatient ultrasound service, the first community open mental health care, and first outpatient surgery program. Well, from the 70s, where do we go from here? Let's head home. Well, it's good to be back. In the years since 1980 to the present, we've seen an explosion of growth and development. Welborn has always been a pioneer when it comes to diagnostic technologies and patient services. This is just one example: LifeFlight, the emergency air transportation system that went into effect in 1982. The former Med Center is refurbished and reopened in 1985 as Mulberry Center, a freestanding inpatient psychiatric facility housing substance abuse and eating disorders programs. Besides LifeFlight, Welborn has introduced numerous services such as the Tri-State's first family-centered birthing room concept of labor, delivery, recovery, and postpartum, the sophisticated MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, WorkWell, an occupational health program designed in cooperation with Welborn Hospital and Welborn Clinic, and LaserTripter, a laser which alleviates the need for surgical removal of kidney stones. Welborn has always taken pride in its creativity and leadership in introducing patient care innovations into Evansville and celebrated its 95-year heritage in 1989 with the $9.3 million Walker Building dedication. The January 1990 opening of the Welborn Children's Center began the activities of the current decade. The emergency department expanded, and Welborn Baptist Hospital became a smoke-free healthcare institution in 1991. In 1992, the hospital campus dedicated a 49,000 square foot addition of the Mulberry Center. Therapeutic recreational facilities include an indoor swimming pool, an overhead running track, gymnasium, an exercise and weight training room. The Oak Park Professional Building was dedicated in July 1992. The 3-story facility houses professional medical offices for multiple physician specialties. Welborn Clinic announces plans for a 73,000 square foot expansion to the downtown facility to be completed in the spring of 1994.
100 years ago, Dr. Owen and Dr. Walker of the Evansville Sanitarium made a commitment to provide the Evansville area with innovative and quality health care. 100 years later, as we prepare to enter the 21st century, Welborn still shares the vision and commitment of its founding fathers.
We've just taken you on a 100-year retrospective of the birth, growth, and expansion of Welborn Memorial Baptist Hospital. Welborn today is a progressive, efficient, and streamlined facility with a caring professional staff. And Welborn will continue to be a leader in the search for new and innovative ways of meeting the healthcare needs of the community in their next 100 years.